Welcome back to the Taped Podcast, the most villainous podcast in the world. We are your hosts, myself, MickyT, and as always with me, my co-host,
Nostalgia.
And once again, we are not alone here today, as we are joined by two guests. They were only on the podcast 2 weeks ago on the Ween episode. We have Toasterqueen.
I'm stuck in this room, help me.
I'll help you soon. And Koner.
Also known as Poo Putt Platter.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, pop one off. Yeah.
And what are we here for today? We are going to be doing a worst to best on MF Doom. And I'm excited as hell for this one because MF Doom is one of my favorite rappers of all time. And he's got a pretty decent discography, multiple classics under his belt. And yeah, he's pretty much one of the most interesting rappers to talk about. And yeah, I don't think we should just waste any more time here. I think we should just get right into it. We've chosen 10 albums. We're not going to be counting Neruvian Doom. And we're not going to be counting any of the Metal Fingers albums. Just the 10 albums where Doom is actually rapping. And most of them are collab albums. So yeah, my number 10 pick, what I think is MF Doom's least best album, is Key to the Cuffs.
I also chose Key to the Cuffs.
I'll go. I chose The Mouse in the Mask.
Wow. I chose Keys to the Cuffs.
Oh,
That's a hot take already.
Wow, I won.
Again.
God damn it.
Oh yeah, we said beforehand we placed a bet on who would have the first hot take in case anyone's confused. And I think that answers that.
Yep. So yeah, Key to the Cuffs is Doom's collaborative effort with Gennaro Jarrell under JJ Doom, and I think Gennaro Jarrell worked with Doom in the past on Born Like This in particular, and while I think this project does have merit to it, it lands at my lowest spot for a number of reasons. To start with what I like, I think that the dynamic between MF Doom's style of rapping and Gennaro's very glitchy, cold and synthetic production kind of works well in some aspects. Like, despite the artistic differences, Gennaro seems right up Doom's alley with his production. And on this album in particular, he makes some really interesting and enjoyable beats. Plus, Doom brings some good performances on the best songs on here. But where I feel like this album lacks in a lot of efforts from both parties is where it kind of drags down. Doom's collab projects usually give off a great chemistry between rapper and producer. And it seems kind of fractured in a sense, as Doom seems like he's kind of phoning it in on a few tracks here, not really delivering much memorable material bar a few moments or giving it his all, while Gennaro is a capable beat maker and has some really good instrumentals. Oftentimes some of the beats are quite stiff, not at all that interesting, and often come off a bit bland, and it all just kind of rubs off each other in a pretty unrefined way. It's not a bad album, I actually think it's pretty decent, but it just leaves a lot to be desired in a lot of aspects, and it really doesn't stand a chance against a lot of the other works in Doom's discography.
Yeah, no, I agree with most of what you said. I think Key to the Cuffs has moments where everything kind of gels and clicks together very well between producer and rapper. But for the most part, I have to kind of disagree with the first thing you said. I think a lot of the very synthetic and glitchy production on here just doesn't really work well with Doom's style overall. It doesn't really complement his flow, his delivery. It kind of at times even takes away from it for me personally. However, even aside from that dynamic, I just think that when it comes to Doom's bars on here, I think it's probably his least focused, most sloppy album. He just doesn't feel on top of his game when it comes to his pen game or his delivery. And yeah, I agree that it just kind of exists in his discography. It's never gonna, beat out the likes of, some of his more acclaimed albums. I'm not gonna name any yet. It's just a bit of a weak album.
Okay, I'll keep things brief because you guys pretty much said what I had in mind. But I just want to point out for the first time in the history on this podcast, I don't have any albums that are under a 6, which is a good thing.
Me neither.
I understand why people consider this to be his weakest project, at least his weakest collaborative effort. It's obviously nothing spectacular. Nothing really stands out as a classic, but I find it to be decent as a whole. As Mickey said, the beats are very synth heavy, which is of course what I think is the defining characteristic of the project. A good amount of them are energetic, so the album passes by fairly quickly. But I think the performances is what really holds this album back. At least in terms of guest appearances, the only one that really impressed me at all was Beth Gibbons from Portishead. And I thought it was kind of cool to hear Damon Albarn returning the favor by dropping by briefly on the track. But he's like borderline indistinguishable on the track that he appears on. Doom is himself on here. However, I'm not convinced that he's as engaging on this project as he is on his better works. And I don't know if that's as much him as it might be the production. As Nostalgia said, he might not fit quite perfectly with this style. But it's fine. I don't think we'll be coming back to it. But I didn't really expect anything coming out of it. I didn't expect anything going into it. So I guess I'm satisfied with what I got overall.
Okay, just to say this one off, I usually care way more about production than lyricism. So if I sound like I have a huge production bias, it's because I do. So that affects my ranking in some way. The Mouse and the Mask is this Adult Swim pastiche, which I guess it would like connect with you more if you grew up watching, Adult Swim, like the Aqua Teen Hunger Force and the Space Ghost. But to me, it just kind of feels really campy and forced. Like this album features samples from Family Guy and other TV shows at the time. And while Doom has been known to sample cartoons, those are like things that really fit in with his aesthetic and like make up this character that as MF Doom. And just hearing these samples from 2000s TV shows and adult comedies, it just feels really off to me. And I don't feel like Doom ever like brings into performance to really justify this strange departure of styles and aesthetics. And it just kind of feels like someone's online and just like telling you like the shows they watched recently. I don't really like that personally. It's still a good album though. I'm not saying it's bad. It's an MF Doom album. That's a good thing. That was what I meant to say.
Yeah, fair.
It's an MF Doom album, of course.
That's my review. It's an MF Doom album.
So yeah, moving on to best and worst tracks. My favorite tracks from Key to the Cuffs are Governor, Banished, Bite the Thong, Rhyme and Slang, and Wash Your Hands. My least favorite tracks are About the Shoes and Viberian Sun Part 2.
My favorites were Governor, Banished, Dog Friendly. My least favorite was Winter Blue.
My favorite track is Governor, GMO, and Winter Blues. Least favorites are Dog Friendly, About the Shoes, and Wash Your Hands.
My favorite was Crosshairs. My least favorite was ATHF.
Moving on to our number 9 picks, I chose Venomous Villain.
I chose Sourface meets Metal Face.
I chose Born Like This.
I chose Venomous Villain.
Connor, you can go after me then, since we both have Venomous Villain.
Yeah, I do.
Alright, so Venomous Villain is the second album and the last one that we've gotten under the Victor Vaughn name, and it seems like an album that is just lost in the world of Doom's discography, as it's not really ever brought up or is usually remembered by people. It's more so for hardcore fans, if anything. I mean, like, this album is literally sandwiched in between Mad Villainy and Food. And the label that this album was released under does not exist. It's gone. Like, it's a shame, because there's genuinely some good songs on this thing, but at the same time, it's not one of Doom's shining moments. Where it plays to his strength mostly lies in its lore building on the Victor Vaughn character. Doom's rapping is still pretty good. He implores his features well. But I can't help but feel like this is one of Doom's most unrefined works, as it just feels like ideas and leftovers from Vaudeville Villain. The production is inconsistent. It has its moments, especially with the nocturnal and sci-fi tinged beats, but ultimately it's not all of it slaps with how muddy and simplistic some of the beats are. and the features are often very derivative with the runtime it holds, and it's just not very satisfying with more duds than I'd like. I don't have much else to say about it, really. I just wish it could have been better, could have been a bit more fleshed out, and could have been worked on a little bit more.
Yeah. In general, I feel the same way. Obviously, there's no way in hell that this could have possibly surpassed its predecessor, but it's decent, and like Cuffs, for me, it's in the yellow. So as a sequel to one of his most celebrated releases, I think it's a pleasant enough side dish, but not really something that's all that noteworthy. There's a few tracks that I like quite a bit, like the third track, I think, Fallback Titty Fat, has that really cool like blippy beat switch in the last like 30 seconds, and then Rap Game is probably my favorite beat overall. I think the brevity of the project works to its benefit since it's in and out in only like 33 minutes, I'm pretty sure. A fair amount of features on the second half of the album, but unlike the ones on the album I just talked about, these ones are considerably better, I think. I think I'll come back to a couple of these songs. And again, like Keys to the Cuffs, I anticipated that I was going to get nothing out of this because I knew that it's completely overshadowed by the album that preceded it. But I think on its own merits, it's good enough.
Yeah, I chose Starface meets Metal Face, and this one for me is quite disappointing, especially considering that, you know, with the parties involved, this could have been so much better. And just overall, it just feels like everyone involved is a little off color, isn't on top of their game. Doom's got some great verses on this thing, but just as many verses that are just, to me, completely forgettable and unmemorable. Same goes for Inspector Deck, same goes for Esoteric. And the production, while oftentimes very clean, very engaging, often tends to kind of fall into, I don't know, a bit of a monotonous cliche of itself. It doesn't really do anything to stand out from, you know, some of his better projects. It doesn't do anything to stand out from some of Starface's other projects. It's just kind of underwhelming, especially considering, you know, who's involved in this project. And, you know, I just wish it was a bit better because, you know, a really good Starface and MF Doom collab would be something fucking incredible. But this really isn't that.
Born Like This. I just want to mention that this album does one of my favorite things that a lot of sample-based albums to do, which is sample a song that has sample in it. The song Lightworks samples the Jay Dilla song Lightworks, which samples the Raymond Scott song Lightworks, and I like that little matryoshka of music. But anyway, this album, I don't really understand it. I guess it's to me, it just kind of feels very basic, as like a basic Doom album. A lot of people are saying like, oh, this is Doom's return to form, this is Doom going back to his glory days, and like, that's cool. But what I liked about MF Doom was that he always tried to do something new. He always tried to push the boundaries, and this really just does feel like a kind of a more bland version of Operation Doomsday to me. Granted, it's still one that has like a lot of really good tracks on it, and still one that has some great production, but it's just bogged down to me by just how kind of basic it is to me, and also just, you know, the fact that it has Batty Boys, and you look back on that and you're like, oh, that makes this whole thing works. That's great.
Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. My favorite tracks from Venomous Villain are Fallback Titty Fat, Dope Skill, Pop Quiz, and Bloody Chain. The worst tracks are Doper Skiller and Back End.
Koner, do you want to go?
Yeah. My favorite tracks on Venomous Villain are Fallback Titty Fat, Rap Game, Doper Skiller. Take that, Mickey. Ode to Road Rage. And my least favorite is Victimizer and the interludes, I guess. I'm going to try going forward to not use the cop-out of saying the interludes are the worst. I'm only going to say
That's why I
that.
don't pick interludes.
I'm only gonna say it once. I promise.
My favorites on Starface meets Metal Face were Metal with Metal, Forever People, Phantoms, and Bomb Throne. My least favorites were You Masked for It and MF Sar.
My favorite was Still Dope. My least favorite was Batty Boys.
Moving on to our number 8 picks, I chose Zarface meets Metalface.
I chose Venomous Villain.
I chose Keys to the Cuffs.
I chose Born Like This.
Ooh.
Ooh. Alright.
Okay, usual order then.
Yeah, usual order. So yeah, Zarface meets Metalface had potential to be an amazing project between the two because, you know, on the one hand you have MF Doom, a legendary rapper. You have 7L and Esoteric, who are really great duo. And you have Inspected Deck with them as well. One of my personal favorite Wu-Tang Clan members. And much like Doom, Zarface, you know, they've done collaborative efforts before. You know, they did one with Ghostface Killah, I think, after this one. But I don't know. I think it's good. I think their styles mesh together and coincide in an album setting decently. But I feel like we could have got more from this. Production-wise, you know, it goes for the classic hip-hop approach with classic boom bap and somewhat of an incorporation of Doom's sample-heavy concepts. For the most part, the production is quite good. And it complements what the rappers themselves are doing well. Granted, a lot of it is inconsistent, but it gets the job done. I think that performances from each of the rappers involved are very good. They give it their all, but I don't know. It's just alright. I think everyone's flow and energy is on point, but it's not that memorable. I think Doom sounds decent enough, but he does have his moments where he's very forgettable, and same goes for Inspected Deck. It does have a couple of issues, like, you know, some lines and bars do come off a bit boomerish. The production, while really good, isn't consistently good, like I mentioned. There are features that could have been way better, specifically Open Mike Eagle. And I feel like it isn't Doom at his best, you know? He sounds great, don't get me wrong. The man can still pull off an entertaining verse and flow. But there isn't a whole lot that says, you know... There isn't a whole lot that says, go to this album if you want to, you know, here's some of Doom's best verses. That's just not the case. But, you know, it's still a decent classic, no bullshit hip hop album if you want some of that. So I'd recommend this if you're just out there looking for this. But in terms of how it fits in Zarface and Doom's discography, it's just a bit lackluster.
I chose Venom's Villain for mine, and this is a really odd one because I do think it's a good album, but it doesn't even begin to live up to the expectations of being a sequel to Vaudeville Villain. It's a lot more rough than the predecessor. It doesn't really do much to follow up its very dark atmospheres and themes, and overall Doom just doesn't really deliver much memorable verses on this project aside from one or two. It really doesn't sound like an album that was released just 5 months after Mad Villainy and only 3 months before Food. On both of those albums, I'll mention it in more detail later, but obviously Doom is incredible on those projects, and here he's just alright. He doesn't have any memorable one-liners or flows. It's just kind of basic enough for his discography. It doesn't stand out at all, and especially the placement between two very well-known classics makes it even that more forgettable. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Keys to the Cuffs is a weird album because with other Doom albums, you can kind of visualize why its existence is there, but Keys to the Cuffs is strange because it's like MF Doom woke up one day and he's like, I gotta make an album about being British. I gotta do that right now. And I like Keys to the Cuffs. I think it's really good. I really like its, like you said, more synthy production, and I like how kind of more dark the beats sound. And there's moments where the production just kind of gets ridiculous, like LO Governor, again, just sampling Regular Show, which is, in my opinion, kind of silly. But I think Keys to the Cuffs is actually a really nice album to just, you know, relax to. It's not like one of Doom's most thought-provoking, lyrical, spiritual miracle albums, or it's not one of the best, produced albums with like something new coming every second. But it's one of his more straightforward albums, and it's one I think they go in, they do a good job, and you come out of it thinking like, yeah, that was a good album. It has a lot of high points for me, and I think it's pretty good.
Oh, sorry, me. Okay. So my number
Yes,
eight spot.
Yes,
My number eight spot was Born Like This. So I already didn't have that much to say about this, even before Amy said most of what I had to say. But I'll say what I had anyways. So
I stole your words.
You stole them. Right? You stole them. Yeah. Like Mickey stole my take.
You've seen your notes.
Anyways, so Born Like This. So this is where things are in the green for me. So while I think this is a good album, I do have to admit that I think it's the least impressive one under the Doom moniker, and I kind of struggle to find something that really makes it unique. There's plenty of impressive tracks, and there's really only one dud in the track listing, which I think we know which one that is, which I think is a compliment towards its consistency. Overall, it's enjoyable, and okay, this grammar on my notes was horrible. Overall, it's enjoyable, although
I really did steal your words. Damn.
Although it lacks that wow factor. Yeah, it lacks a wow factor for me. I'll definitely be giving it more spins since I'm sure it will grow on me. But at this point in time today, I'm just struggling to find things to say about it. I like it. It's just that I'm really unable to articulate why I do or how I think it could have been better.
that's fair enough. And also, I always have terrible grammar in my notes, so you're not alone there. I try to compensate for it. It's a given. It's a given.
Look at Mickey.
Autocorrect always fucks me over.
Sea of red.
Sea of red. Everything's just blue for me. Oh no.
King Blizzard. That's not a band.
It was correct in my notes, but for some reason my brain read it as if it was like butchered. I don't know.
Your mind's playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, my favorite tracks from Czarface meets Metal Face are Metal with Metal, Badness of Madness, Forever People, Phantoms, Bomb Throw, Nautical Depth, and Captain Brunch. My least favorite tracks are Don't Spoil It and MF Czar.
My favorite tracks on Venomous Villain were Fall Back Titty Fat, Ode to Road Rage, and Bloodchain. Least favorite was Doom on Vic.
My favorite was Winter Blues. My least favorite is Word I Can't Say, Friend. I don't want to get cancelled.
Understandable.
You'll get cancelled on this.
My favorite tracks on Born Like This are Gazillion Ear, absolutely. The Light Works, still dope, and that's that. Least favorites are Batty Boys, obviously, and Super Villains.
Moving on to our number 7 picks, I chose Take Me to Your Leader.
I chose The Mouse in a Mask.
I chose Take Me to Your Leader.
Ooh,
I chose
swag.
Czarface meets Metal Face.
Alright, Amy, go after Mick.
I don't wanna.
Oh,
You
okay
have
then.
to.
Okay then.
I'm going to my room.
So yeah, Take Me to Your Leader is the only album that we have under the King Ghidorah moniker, and while I think that this is a good album, it does land lower on my list because of a few annoyances I have with it. While what I like boils down to a lot of the production choices, as Doom never really disappoints on that front with a lot of the East Coast hip-hop inspired beats and the very creative sampling which complements the loose concept of King Ghidorah. Although there were moments in the mixes that felt off-putting to me because they were either underwhelming or overbearing, and some of the instrumentals tended to meander a bit for my liking. Doom is... He raps on this, but, there's loads of moments on the album where he's not there and he's just letting the instrumentals speak for themselves and implores a lot of guests to appear on these beats, which isn't bad personally because, most of these MCs that appear are doing very well. And, Doom is performing well when he's on there, but there's instances where Doom underwhelmed me a bit. And in comparison with some of his other projects, he doesn't really give us much to remember, unlike a few, albums. And I still think that, this album is good despite its flaws. It has some genuinely incredible tracks on here with production that is just fantastic and performances that are fantastic. But in the grander scheme of Doom's discography, I don't find it all that memorable, personally.
What do you mean loose concept? He's a 3-headed dragon.
Yeah, I know, but the way like the beats, like the samples are incorporated, make it kind of loose in a sense, you know?
That's a really firm concept. It's 3-headed dragon who raps.
Okay, I'm getting my alcohol.
1 beer. Take me to your leader. Yes, I somehow remembered not F Doom Sing, where he palette that he uses throughout all his production. Personal favorite of mine is the opening of Phases, like follow the light your guide. I really like that part. The beat selected here, like Mickey said, they quality to them that that old school hip hop range movie about Godzilla rapping, and you're just like, yeah, hell yeah. Pretty much my reaction to.
Death Grips Moth.
that image is like my college profile picture for a year.
It really was. I remember that.
Lecturer scene.
I remember that.
Listening
no, MC
to
Ride is just
leader.
following it, just like not taking notice of anybody else. He's just doing whatever it says. I stay noited.
MC Ride is my favorite kaiju. It's like, no, Godzilla is destroying Tokyo. Oh, it's MC Ride from Death Grips. Oh!
It's just you know the music video to what is it? Is a Hustle Bones the one where he's just recording it in like the fucking dash cam of a car?
Guillotine.
No,
no, that's not. No, that's,
it was
that's in the car.
No, it wasn't Hustle Bones. It was something off of the Money Store though.
Oh.
I'll look this up.
Dude, I just imagine MC Ride looking at you through a window on like the 20th story, the same way he looks into that dash cam.
In the streets of
It'd be terrifying.
One day, guy becomes home and just MC Ride and his like Corvette just crashes in Tokyo.
Oh, it sounds incredible.
What I forget what I even picked. I chose The Mouse in the Mask. This isn't my favorite Doom album, obviously, but I do have to admit that I think that Danger Mouse and Doom do have great chemistry, and they work together to create a very cartoonish, obviously, atmosphere, which is a bit tacky at times, I will admit, but generally it's quite lighthearted, quite fun. I do think the album has some duds and some less interesting tracks, mostly when it comes to the production side of things, but it's probably one of the most lighthearted and entertaining albums in his whole discography. It's quite accessible. There's nothing to this that's very profound or, memorable in terms of songwriting. Definitely not to the extent that stuff on Mad Villainy or Food is, but for what it is, it's fun. It's nothing more, but it is very fun.
Also, I found the music video.
No,
it's not. It's Hustle Bones.
No, but he's in
Is it?
car and Guillotine.
Yeah, no, but he's not.
I told you it was Hustle Bones, dude. No, in the music video to Hustle Bones. No, it isn't Hustle Bones.
The music video is him in a car.
No, it's him. You know the fucking things some car have in like where it shows what's behind them, so you can, just so you can park better. I forget what the fuck. It says there's some red text on the whole music video. I need to look this up. Hold up.
It's Double Helix. I'm telling you.
Double Helix. You're right.
I told
Double Helix.
You, man.
Yeah, and wait, I want to see what the text says.
Come on.
Check surroundings.
Yeah, check surroundings for safety. and he's just screaming into for fucking the whole 2 minutes.
No, where they just
Get the car!
I just imagine being in like the 12th story of a building and just seeing a fucking huge kaiju MC Ride looking like he doesn't see that camera.
a scream, just like a blue laser comes out. Just goes.
It's so good.
Koner, do you want to go?
Yeah, I've been sitting here in silence waiting.
I'm so sorry, I had to say it.
Okay. You guys have probably forgotten by now, so I had Starface reach Metal Face at this spot. So, MF Doom, clearly one of the best MCs in history, and I feel like all of his releases get the praise they deserve, but if you were to ask me which one I think doesn't, it's this one. So, I like this a lot more than you guys seem to, which is surprising to me, because I know Mickey likes MF Doom a lot more than I do. But anyway, so I think this is one of the, well, it's the better collaborative effort that he did in the past decade, and everybody that's involved, Inspector Deck, Esoteric, and 7L, are all rock solid. I think they work as a good team. The production spearheaded by 7L and the two other producers that I'm not familiar with, I think is above average. Some of the beats are stellar, like Bomb Throne. That song is so good. Some of the tracks have an uneasy vibe to them too, which is something I don't get all that often in Doom projects, so I appreciate that as well. I like every track to an extent, and there's a couple that I really love. So yeah, I'm just surprised that it gets labeled as just whatever or meh by some, because to me this is good. So from here on out, yeah, things are going to go from good to great very quickly. And I think it's surprising that Inspector Deck is as strong as I think he is here, because of all of the Wu-Tang members, his like solo work after their sort of like fame was over, like he has nothing that's impressive really at all. So I think it's cool that he's sort of got like a resurrection. Now.
Yeah, like the only Wu-Tang members after that really had like outstanding solo projects were Ghostface Killer, Raekwon, Method Man, and Old Dirty Bastard before he died.
Yeah.
So
no, like not even most, like half of Wu-Tang.
People were in Wu-Tang.
There's like
37,000.
There's
Staten Island.
I think it was 9.
All of Staten Island, yeah.
I think it was 9.
Around 9 or 10. I think they were including like more people in their later career, but that you can't beat the main.
Their later rappers just joined. It's like, yo, it's Quizza. And it's just like,
Yeah, somebody else joined.
10, it seems.
Yes, someone else did. I think that was what. I think that was only to fill the void for Old Dirty Bastard.
No, I feel like a Wu-Tang solo where it's the best thing would be kind of interesting.
I would be down for that, honestly. Except we're not doing like every single solo album from every single Wu-Tang member.
What if we ranked every member?
as a person, like
Yeah, as a person.
Yeah, by their personality.
like this.
No, number one.
Charity.
Method Man's a really nice guy. I met him at a Subway once.
Old Dirty
Old Dirty
Bastard.
Bastard is.
That's gonna put him at the bottom.
Dude, Method Man was so goddamn good in The Wire. Like, it's ridiculous. He was fantastic as an actor. And still is.
All right, enough about Wu-Tang Clan. Let's go on to
Before we end this, another favorite of rappers acting is in the Creep Show series on Shudder. Kid Cudi plays a werewolf soldier.
Really?
God.
Yeah, he's like fighting Nazis and then he becomes a werewolf.
That's incredible. Oh, God bless that man. So yeah, best and worst tracks. My favorites from Take Me to Your Leader are Phasers, Fastlane, Next Levels, Antimatter, I Wonder, The Fine Print, and One Smart N-Word. My least favorite track is No Snakes Alive and Monster Zero.
My favorite is Phasers. My least favorite is Take Me to Your Leader.
My favorites on The Mouse and a Mask were El Chupa Libre, Sofa King, The Mask, Old School Rules, Mincemeat, and Vats Viren. My least favorites were Perfect Hair and Bada Bing.
Bada boom.
Come on, Nostalgia. Watch your language, man. Come on. My favorite tracks on Sourface meets Metal Face are Metal with Metal, Badness of Madness, Phantom, Bomb Throne, and Stun Gun. And my least favorite is MF Czar.
I've noticed we've all had MF Zars in our least favorites.
Yeah.
So, moving on to our number 6 picks, I chose Born Like This.
I chose Take Me to Your Leader.
I chose Sourface meets Metal Face.
I chose The Mouse and the Mask.
Diversity, wow.
Diversity again.
Yeah.
Normal order.
So, yeah.
Normal order.
So, yeah, Born Like This. I think this is a very good album from Doom. Personally, I think it is a bit underrated despite it being this low, but I really think it's a standout moment in Doom's discography. But with that being said, it does have some issues. First of all, Doom does not disappoint on this album at all, as he sounds really vicious throughout this whole thing, almost like he's just has something to prove. In his performances seem like they have no nonsense. They're quite visceral, with bars that aren't really as cartoony in their humor, but the humor is still there, just a little bit more crude at moments, and some of his flows are just incredible on this album too. Like that flow that he has on that song is just wow. I'm never saying that in that many sentences ever again. Production wise, I think this album is really well done. It's very much what you'd expect from Doom's production style, but at the same time, it feels a lot more apocalyptic and dark in a sense. Aesthetically, I'd say it's Doom's darkest sounding album, and that makes sense given the gritty approach that it takes. What did I even say there? the gritty approach that it takes. Plus, I'll always
Lay off the beer.
Oh no. Plus, I'll always appreciate the J Dilla beats. You know, there's some just amazing cuts on this thing that I'd consider some of the best in Doom's catalog, especially with some of the more unique songs, and the features are always amazing across this album, except for the ones on Supervillains for me. But like I mentioned, this album is flawed. I feel like it does have some ideas and songs that are not all that great in its concepts and what it does sonically. It comes off as a bit unrefined and a bit derivative. And this album, of course, has, in my opinion, MF Doom's worst song, and, you know, it's Batty Boys for its blatant homophobia. Sure, the villain is rapping, and that's the whole point of the character, but either way, it's not acceptable or fun to listen to. But take that song out of context, I think that Born Like This is a very good album.
The band The should cover that.
I chose Take Me to Your Leader, and for me this is the first time that a Doom album really centered around the atmosphere and the theme at hand predominantly, and the theme here is explored brilliantly with Doom's very, very impressive use of sampling to establish a very fun and entertaining kaiju aesthetic, which overall really works well with Doom's style. Doom's flows, while a lot more scarce, are a bit more mature and wordplay oriented than on, you know, his very raw debut, which is a style that he would go on to perfect even more. But his pen game and flows are still incredible on this. The biggest issue that I do have when compared to the albums I have ranked above is that the beats, aside from the really great sampling, seem to oftentimes be a bit skeletal, a bit sparse, and, you know, don't really leave as much of a lasting impression as some of the instrumentals on albums that I have ranked above it. But overall, it's a great album.
I just wanted to say, Bomb Throne was one of my most listened to songs of 2018, and that year had some amazing songs. That just proves how incredible that song is. Starface meets Metalface is awesome. I don't care what you guys say. Starface meets Metalface is a great combination of these two rappers. Starface, so I feel like, can be very hit or miss, but it's definitely on his A game here. And MF Doom coming back after like a long period of not making albums, and just like really coming back with a lot of just great material. A ton of the songs on here are just awesome. Like you said, there's great features from Inspector Deck, and it's just a bunch of rappers coming together essentially to try to like create just like an end game proportion weird novelty rappers. Almost every song here is just really memorable to me, and I keep coming back to them. Not even just Bomb Throne, but give me a second. Sorry, I don't have a list of songs written down. I apologize. There, but also like Phantoms and Captain Brunch, like a bunch of just songs that I really enjoy. But I think a main problem here is the interludes and the skits. I know that when you're reviewing an album, for some reason it's been accepted that you should just ignore the skits, but they're so bad on this album. There's just awful skits. It just kind of bogs the thing down for me. But I still think this album's underrated, and I still really like it.
Fair enough.
Okay. So number 6 for me was The Mouse and the Mask. So if I had to describe this album in 2 words, it'd be lovably cartoonish. That's exactly what it sets out to be, and I think it absolutely delivers. So I have to give credit to Danger Mouse in general, just for how much work he's put in his career so far. Like, he's been involved in so many great things and deserves recognition, except for that U2 album that was on my phone. Fuck you for that. But as for the album itself, I think it has pretty much everything going for it. I think that this concept, a hip-hop album built heavily around samples from cartoons, could have been done completely over the top, but I think this project manages to stay completely grounded, and it comes off, at least in my opinion, as far from a gimmick. So, like, most of the content I've seen from Adult Swim is hit or miss for me, but I think the material gathered on this album from shows like Aqua Teen Hunger Force is utilized tastefully. Just in general, I think this album is splendid. It's a very humorous adventure into the quirkiest corners of rap, and I like it a lot. I know that's a very surface level explanation of my feelings, but I like this one a lot.
If
Fair enough.
Mouse and the Mask came out today, would it sample Eric Andre?
Probably would. Honestly, I'd kill for that.
Probably.
I'd kill for that. So yeah, best and worst tracks. My favorites from Born Like This are Gazillionaire, Lightworks, That's That, Ballskin, Absolutely, Rap Ambush, Angels, Still Dope, Microwave Mayo, and More Rhymin'. The worst tracks are Batty Boys and Supervillains.
My favorites on Take Me to Your Leader were Phasers, Crazy World, Next Levels, No Snakes Alive, I Wonder. My least favorite was Monster Zero.
My favorite was Bomb Throne. My least favorite was You Masked for It.
My favorites on Mouse and the Mask are Sofa, King. I wanted to space it out so I wasn't swearing.
Conan, no.
Benzie Box, Old School, and Space Hose. I liked that song a lot before I realized that it has the lyrics from one of the songs on the Mad Villainy remix album. I think I prefer the beat on that album a little bit more than the one that's here, but this one's still awesome. And my least favorites are ATHF. I think like the characters from that show are kind of obnoxious on that song, and then Mincemeat.
When MF Doom makes an album again, you know he's going to name one of the tracks Bofa. You know that.
We're in the top half of our list, finally. We're at number 5. And my number 5 pick is The Mouse and the Mask.
My number 5 pick is Born Like This.
My number 5 pick is Venomous Villain.
My number 5 pick is Take Me to Your Leader.
All right.
Wait, I think we have the same top 4.
We do?
Yeah, I think so.
We do! Let's go!
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, it was always going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's MF Doom. It's
I'm
MF Doom.
not surprised in the slightest.
Same, actually. It's MF Doom, after all.
It's just the order that's going to be different.
So, yeah. I chose The Mouse and the Mask. This album is released under Danger Doom, which is the collaborative project Doom did with one of my personal favourite producers, Danger Mouse, and this project was also a promotional thing with Adult Swim, obviously, with incorporations of the various, characters you'd find in the shows on that on their late night programming. Now, I think that The Mouse and the Mask is a great record for a number of reasons. For one, I think that MF Doom is still on top form with all of these tracks and his rapping, his creative writing, and he ties in, the Adult Swim references in hilarious ways, and it's a light-hearted project overall. Danger Mouse does a great job on the production end of things with his style of gritty, jazz-heavy hip-hop production. I think it sounds pretty good throughout this project, and it complements Doom's style and the cartoony nature of this album. Granted, it doesn't always go hand in hand, but it's consistently good nonetheless. I don't think it's got a lackluster track on it, and it's consistently fun front to back, but I do have a few gripes with the album. For one, I feel like in the grander scheme of Doom's discography, it's not as memorable as some of his absolute best stuff, and maybe it's not as memorable as some of both artists' best stuff, actually. And I feel like, this album is too heavy on the skits. I've never watched these shows personally, and I wouldn't mind giving them a watch, but they're just kind of distracting. They're a bit annoying and very obnoxious at points. But that's really it, honestly. I really enjoy listening to The Mouse and the Mask.
I wouldn't mind giving Family Guy a watch. Seems like underrated television.
Forget Family Guy. Fuck that.
I chose Born Like This. And Born Like This was Doom's first album in 3 years. And after he released 6 albums in the 3 years before that, those 3 years may as well have been an eternity. But on Born Like This, Doom, he's unrelenting, and the album makes sure he's back. Every verse that Doom delivers on here is just delivered with such energy, intensity, and ferocity that it becomes clear he means business, and that he's back, and he's very passionate about what he's doing here. It's not my personal favorite Doom album, but it's certainly an admirable for the most part, staple in his discography. Production, I forgot to mention production, which is also brilliant. The sampling is fantastic, and a lot of the instrumentals on Born Like This are among the most memorable ones in his whole discography. It's a great album overall.
Venomous Villain, another underrated album. I know that you said that it's just leftovers from Vaudeville Villain. I fucking love Vaudeville Villain. I'm not complaining. Venomous Villain, even though that it is just more the same idea, it's an idea that I really love, and I like all the features on it. I like how this is I don't know if indie is the correct word, but MF Doom doing something more underground in its style, especially with the more minimalist beats. I also love just when the album just goes even crazy and just goes full on jazz orchestration for beats. I think that MF Doom has some great lyrics here, and I just think this is an underrated project. Not one of his best, sure, but it's considering the fact that it's just ideas from Vaudeville Villain, it still manages to be fresh and still manages to be quite entertaining.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you were done. Okay.
I'm not.
So take him to your...
I'm not done.
Oh,
Also, MF Doom, he's quite cute. I want to give him a little kissy on his cheek. There you go. Now I'm done.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so Take Me to Your Leader is the first album of Doom's golden era that I'd never heard before getting ready for this podcast. No idea why it took me so long to check it out, since it's really, really pretty good. I have a good list of positive things to say about this album. The first is that the beats feel super nostalgic, which is a quality that I really enjoy in hip-hop music in general, and I vibe with the somewhat unrefined production style as well. If there's one thing I'm torn on, it's the balance between Doom and his guests. There's obviously never a sense that Doom isn't present. He's always either on the mic or behind the mixing board, but I guess there's just times where I feel like he might have been a better fit to lead a couple of the songs that are on here. It's just a minor thing that I've noticed. It's not really a flaw by any means. The one specific song I'd like to shout out is Next Levels, because I had the instrumental version of that song as my alarm in college for an entire year. So, personal connection to that. I just really fucking love jazzy beats, man. I don't know. That might be the best one I've ever heard. For some reason, my notes say Alarm Clark instead of Clock.
I've heard
Set your alarm, Clark.
Put songs that you
I
love
wrote these
to your
notes at
alarm
midnight, so...
because it
What's
just
that?
makes you associate it with waking up, which is the worst feeling.
I don't know. It's
My
I don't know,
alarm
it's like
clock is
it's
just...
a nice thing to. It's a nice thing to
alarm-
start the day with.
My alarm clock is just Serge Tankian saying "wake up" continuously. Wake up!
My alarm clock is MickyT calling me in the morning, saying it's time to do the podcast. Podcast kid.
Get the fuck up! It's time for a podcast.
I did have one more thing
My
to
alarm clock is
mention.
MickyT throwing a bottle of booze at me and saying like, "Record now."
Wake up. I did have one last thing to say about this album. I was sort of trying to figure out why some people don't think it really stands out really as like a unique thing that he put out in this era. I think it's either because he never revisited this moniker. This is the only thing that ever came out under this name. It doesn't really seem like, if you looked at that album cover, there's no indication that this is an MF Doom related project. So I wonder if there's sort of like an identity thing going on with this album that keeps it from being like lauded as much as his like classic records do. I wonder if it had been released under the MF Doom name, if it would have been received better or worse. I'm kind of curious. I'm like going through that hypothetical situation in my head, wondering what would happen. So I think
what he should have done was give all the Dragon Heads little MF Doom masks. Then everyone would call it a classic.
Oh, I want an MF Doom mask.
Good news is his character named Doctor Doom. I'm pretty sure he sells those things for cheap.
They're not the same. Anyways, my favorite tracks from The Mouse and the Mask are The Mask, Perfect Hair, ATHF, Basket Case, Mincemeat, Space Hose, and Bada Bing. The worst track, in my opinion, is Benzie Box.
My favourite tracks on Born Like This were Gazillionaire, Ballskin, Yes Sir, Absolutely, Rap Ambush, Lightworks, Angels, That's That. My least favourite track was Batty Boys.
My favorite track was Doper Skiller. My least favorite was Bloody Chain.
My favorite tracks on Take Me to Your Leader are Phasers, Crazy World, Hot Take Incoming. I like Monster Zero a lot for some reason, even though there's no rapping on it at all. I don't know. Next Levels, of course, and Antimatter, The Fine Print, and my least favorite is No Snakes Alive.
If Doctor Doom was a real person, do you think he would listen to MF Doom?
You never know.
You would just listen to Latvian folk chanting.
Maybe. So we're in the top
Fantastic Four.
We're in the top 4. Yeah. And we're in the Fantastic Four of MF Doom's discography, because we've all got the same 4. Just a matter of what's next.
You have to say which one is which. You have to say which album is The Thing, which album is The Invisible Girl.
True. My number 4 pick is Operation Doomsday.
My number 4 pick is Food.
Mine is Operation Doomsday.
My number 4 pick is Vaudeville Villain.
All right.
Amy, go after Mick again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I want to
This is
this
where the
time.
heartbreaking begins.
I'll come around to it.
So, Operation Doomsday was the first project from MF Doom under MF Doom. Previously, he was in KMD as Zevlov X, but because of the unfortunate death of DJ Sabrak, who's MF Doom's brother, and issues with his label, he went dormant for years, never being heard from until his return in 1999 with this new project. And all I have to say is this album blew me away with how surprisingly amazing it was. Production-wise, this album sounds fantastic. The central theme of this project, and many of Doom's projects after, is the whole villain character, and he emphasizes that concept with samples and production choices that give off the classic cartoon villain vibe, and they sound incredible, honestly. Plus, it just shows Doom was bursting onto the scene with an already definitive sound. I also love some of the classic, somewhat 80s sampling here. The pure jazz rap tracks just sound phenomenal. You are evil if you don't think the beats for Doomsday and Rhymes Like Dimes aren't amazing. Doom's rapping on this thing is spectacular. He plays the villain incredibly well on this album. He often delivers some incredibly good abstract and conceptual songs on this thing. His rhyme schemes are impeccable. His flows sound just as distinct and as ear-grabbing. Despite that, there were instances where the recording quality of Doom's verses sounded kind of off to me, like they weren't recorded in the best quality, and there are moments where it does feel a bit grating. But either way, it has plenty of material to compensate for that. The track list itself is just amazing. It has so many amazing tracks on it. The interludes are incredibly good. The concept and no, excuse me, say that again. I need to stop drinking. The interludes are really good with the concept and bring it into something concise. And there isn't a single bad song in this album, in my opinion. And some tracks on this thing, I would go as far as to say, are easily some of Doom's best. For 19 songs in an hour length, it went by fairly quick, and it felt like a brilliant experience. It's a brilliant way for Daniel Dumoulin to return, reinvent himself, and it showed he was here to stay. As time went on, he would make even more amazing records, and this one in particular is one of them. I'd even go as far as to say, it's one of the best hip-hop debuts of all time.
Because it's
Oh yeah, yes.
I'm better than you.
No.
I get to go
Sure
first.
it's the same one.
Because this was the 90s and like copyright law was lax, this album actually has the interesting quality of being one of the few MF Doom albums that like samples really big names. Like you have Say, you have the song Glass Onions by the Beatles, you have Daryl Hall and John Oates, and you have my favorite, the You Were Very Hot sample from the greatest band of all time, Steely Dan. But with this album is one of the best debuts ever, because it shows the MF Doom character like fully emerged like a beautiful butterfly. The production style that will go on to influence Mad Villainy and Food. You have the just incredibly clever wordplay that MF Doom become to known. You have just the kind of menacing aura that MF Doom always like project on all his tracks. It's incredible that this is his first album, and all of this is just already realized. He's come out completely aware of what he wants to do for the next 20 years, and not many debuts have the quality of saying this is what the artist is going to do from now on, and that's just incredibly impressive. And it still holds up. It still has a ton of MF Doom's best songs on it, and it still has a lot of incredible charm to it. Sure, it might seem, less polished now compared to the what's to come, but it still has a bunch of great songs to it, and it still has that incredible production style MF Doom will be known for. Not known for using.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
I chose Food, which may seem like a controversial opinion, but considering the quality of the albums we're dealing with at this point, I still very much love this album. It's incredible, and I can definitely see why it's so frequently lauded. But for me personally, I think he's got more engaging albums in his discography. On this album, I think Doom not only really displays some serious skill in his lyricism as always, but also in his rapping, and again he proves to be a very, very good producer. The sampling is fantastic here. There's pretty much no weak beats at all. The skits overall are pretty entertaining, very well assembled, and the very colourful atmosphere that this album crafts is among the most entertaining in his discography. I will say, however, that the 6 minutes of just straight skits in the middle of this project, while definitely fun at first, is a bit tiring on consecutive listens. I kind of just want to get into the meat and bones of this stuff. But it still doesn't really take away much enjoyment at all. It's still a blast to listen to. Overall, I just think there's projects that he's made that I like better, but I can't deny that this is a fantastic album.
Okay, so Vaudeville Villain. So if you got the sense that I was disappointed in myself for sleeping on Take Me to Your Leader, then I'm probably never going to forgive myself for only getting around to this now. So I could just feel it in my bones that this album is going to overtake my number 3 pick with a few more listens, but just for now, it remains here by a very, very small margin. So in general, I think this album flows extremely well from the boisterous title track all the way to the Rainfall and like the closing track. Like seriously, you've got to play that title track super loud. It's probably the most attention-grabbing opener on any of his projects, and it's like Victor like immediately puts you in a chokehold and like slams you against a brick wall. It's great. I I think it's remarkable how cohesive this album is, considering the fact that production is handled pretty much entirely by guest producers. There's a handful of tracks on here that have minimal, like, glitchy IDM influenced beats, and I think they're great. And that means a lot coming from somebody who usually prefers beats that have a lot of, like, bells and whistles, or are, like, more melodic or jazzy. The album feels very cinematic at points too, which really helps to stay engaging. I have nothing negative to say about this album at all. It's great. It's really only at this spot because there's just 3 I happen to like a lot more.
That's the same case for me.
Yeah, same.
Not same. I'm different. I'm unique.
Okay, so my favorite tracks from Operation Doomsday are Doomsday, Rhymes Like Dimes, Tick Tick, Red and Gold, Operation Greenbacks, The Mic, Dead Bent, Gastrolls, and Question Mark. My least favorite track is The Finest.
My favorite is Rhymes Like Dimes. My least favorite is Who You Think I Am.
My brain is tiny. My favorite tracks on Food, which is, the title's annoying me right now because I haven't eaten in about 8 hours, are Beef Rap, Hoe Cakes, One Beer, Deep Fried Friends, Con Carne, Con Queso, Rap Snitch, Nishes, Vomit Spit, and Cookies. My least favorite, I guess, is Poo Put Platter.
Knishes.
So, my favorite tracks from Vaudeville Villain are the title track, Lick Upon, which samples one of my all-time favorite soul songs, Walking By Isaac Hayes. Such a great song. A Dead Mouse, Radon, Let Me Watch. That one has a really like sad vibe to it, kind of. Reminds me of like a rainy night in the city. And then Saliva. And my least favorites are Lactose and Lecithin, and both of the open mic night tracks.
We're in the top 3. Oh boy. And this was incredibly tough for me because these 3 albums I all have rated at a 10. You don't understand. This was like choosing which one of my kids I prefer. This is just so difficult. My number 3 pick is Vaudeville Villain.
My number 3 pick is also Vaudeville Villain.
Mine is Food.
My number 3 pick and the last album on this list that I have notes for is Operation Doomsday. And Mickey, now you know how I feel about talking about. That's how you know that's how I felt about Ween, because I had 4 10s, not 3. And I'm gonna go grab a snack for my number 2 pick real quick.
Food.
Snack.
So yeah, Vaudeville Villain is one of the 2 MF Doom albums released under Victor Vaughn. And honestly, this is one of my favorite Doom projects, like, ever. This used to be my favorite. I feel like in terms of Doom's rapping, this is easily some of his best. I love his delivery on this album. It started to get kind of, like, gruff. It has a newfound, like, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it just feels like he has something to prove. His flows are incredibly impressive on this thing. They seem a lot more intense on here, too. His rhyme schemes are impeccable. And lyrically, a lot of Doom's best writing turns up on here. A lot of it obviously being centered around Victor Vaughn, who, much like Doom's, like other personas, performances on this album, seem to have a bit of a youthful fire to them. The stories that Doom tells are easily some of his most detailed and vivid in his discography as well. Production-wise, this album sets itself apart from a lot of Doom albums, as in, in contrast with a lot of the brighter jazz rap centric stuff and the villainous cartoony sampling, this album just feels a lot more nocturnal and dark. And it feels like, the beats which sound menacing and are quite engaging. I need to stop drinking. Some of these beats are even like some of the most unique, like Radon. Like, I've never heard like Doom ever rap on something like Radon, like after or before this, or anyone, for example, rap on a beat like Radon at this time. And plus, the opening track is amazing. It has to be one of Doom's best openers. It's just so explosive, so loud, so fiery, and it's just an amazing track all in all. It just sets this album off like so well. It's one of his lengthier albums too, at roughly 55 minutes, and it honestly doesn't feel like it's that long, as this album is no BS. It's all killer, no filler, and each track lands so incredibly well for me personally, with little in the way of anything lackluster. It just feels like one of his most well thought out, one of his most refined, and easily one of his best for me.
Yeah, Vaudeville Villain is just absolutely mesmerizing. It's easily one of Doom's best projects of all time. The production, first of all, is amazing. It perfectly establishes the very sinister and dark atmosphere, which works absolutely perfectly with the whole villain persona at the center of this project. Doom stands out among this instrumentation with some of his most lively, mischievous and theatric flows to date, and lyricism as well. And speaking of his lyricism, it perfectly ties together the whole story and character, and it just overall makes for one of the most captivating albums in his discography. Just like I said about Food, it's only a number 3 because he's done better, in my opinion.
Koner, are you back yet?
Yes.
Can you cover for me? I gotta get a snack.
More food.
Yeah, I'll go, and then I gotta
Cover
go to
me.
the bathroom. Okay. Operation Doomsday. So, MF Doom's decade of straight brilliance started here. It's a phenomenal debut, to say the least. The reason I have this album up so high is because a ton of my favorite tracks of his are on here. Both Doomsday and Rhymes Like Dimes are honestly top 10 Doom tracks for me. And there's plenty of other great ones to follow as well. The beat on that first track, Doomsday, it's like God tier, man. Honestly, I could listen to that shit over and over again. It probably would have been my second pick for my alarm if Next Levels wasn't there. Lyrically, the humor was right there out of the gate for him, with iconic lines such as "Give him something to remember like the Alamo" on Rhymes Like Dimes. I laugh so hard when I hear that every single time. I also like on that song the guy, the DJ at the end, who basically goes crazy on the end of tracks. Like the cliche where a rapper will shout out a bunch of people. Instead, this dude's shouting out foods. He's so excited to be on that song, he doesn't know what to do, and I love it. That's how you make a cliche funny. Instrumentals are great overall. There's so many more memorable ones other than the ones I've mentioned already. But if I had to talk about one thing that holds this album back from being truly amazing to me, it would be production style. Like I said, the beats are great, but the production does seem a bit too rugged for my tastes at times. Luckily, the instrumentals are so good that it doesn't really matter that much, but I just still thought it was worth mentioning that. I think in general, Doom is great, obviously, but he isn't quite the rapper we know him to be just yet on this album. And I think that's perfectly fine in the context of this career because he is starting this new identity. And it makes sense that it's not completely in perfect form. It's in great form, it's just not perfect. I guess the mask just doesn't fit perfectly yet, but it will very soon.
I found an old ass bag of Cheetos. I'm saved.
Nice.
Food? Okay. The Food is known to me personally as just the album where MF Doom decided that he'll just throw all the shit that he can at the wall, and it pretty much all works. Of course, you have the incredibly famous rap snitch Knishes, which not to go full normie, but I just completely love that song. It's so ridiculous. But you also have the four track long instrumental, which people say that that's what holds the album back for them. I really like that personally. I think it's really fun. You also have some great moments of MF, that classic MF Doom lyricism, and you also just have moments where the production just goes crazy and throws 5 samples at once, and the lens of food raps is one that you feel should be annoying, but because it's not really focused on, it just serves as a fun overlay over the entire project, and it that's just what Food is, an incredibly fun album. It it probably is MF Doom's most fun album, the album that you can just listen to with friends and really enjoy.
Yeah. Alright, my favourite tracks from Vaudeville Villain are Vaudeville Villain, Lick Upon, A Dead Mouse, Radon, Can I Watch, Saliva, A Modern Day Mugging, Pop Snot, and GMC, and I have no least favourite tracks. This album's perfect in my opinion.
My favourite tracks were Vaudeville Villain, Look Upon, The Drop, Lactose and Lecithin, A Dead Mouse, Radon, Can I Watch, Saliva, A Modern Day Mugging. Least favourite track, if I had to pick, Open Mic Night Part 1.
Sorry.
You can go.
Oh, yeah. It's me. My favorite tracks on Operation Doomsday are Doomsday, Rhymes Like Dimes, Operation Greenbacks, Gas Straws, Love Me Some Steely Dan Samples, Question Mark, and Red and Gold. And my least favorites are Hero vs. Villain, and I'm sorry about this, Mickey, but Tick Tick.
My favorite is Rap Snitch Knishes. My least favorite is Gumbo, and I shouldn't have grabbed these Cheetos. I didn't realize how loud they were.
We're in the top 2. You made it. And oh god, this is just painful to say. My number 2 pick is Mad Villainy.
Whoa. Wowie.
My number 2 pick is Operation Doomsday.
My number 2 pick is Vaudeville Villain.
My number 2 pick is food.
Oh boy. Okay, I have to be the only contrarian here. Fair enough.
Ooh.
No, but in all honesty, though, I feel so bad for putting this at number 2. It's just such an amazing album. Like Mad Villainy, MF Doom's iconic collaborative album with the one and only beat conductor himself, Madlib. And it's a moment in hip-hop history that we see these two inventive and creative forces come together and create a record that pretty much defines a genre. It defines abstract hip-hop, and it's an important record in hip-hop. This album is the reason why MF Doom is called your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. It's influential to the point where, after it came out, so many artists were inspired by him. And why were they inspired by him? Well, because Doom was on his A-game for this entire fucking album. Like, his performances on this thing are at their most creative, at their most hilarious. Some of the most technical and lyrically, some of his best character writing as a villain are on here. Some of his most villainous performances are on this album as well, in fact. And he delivers nothing but impressive verse after impressive verse. Of course, Doom is only one piece of the puzzle on this album, as Madlib is another reason why this album is iconic, since the production is just fantastic on this whole thing. He works so well with Doom's style of using cartoon sampling to emphasize a concept, and he ends up digging up some really creative and amazing samples, hence why he's known as the Loop Digger. Some of the most impressive hip-hop instrumentals I've ever heard are on this album, and it's all thanks to this one man, Madlib. Both Madlib and Doom are at their creative and artistic peaks on this album, I'd say, and it really shows with the incredible beats, incredible performances, memorable moments, and an album that just sounds fresh, even 16 years after its release. Plus, this album has my favourite MF Doom song on it, so I have to give it props for that. The only reason why I have it at number 2 is because as a whole album experience, in contrast with my number 1 pick, I go back to Mad Villainy less than my number 1 pick.
I forgot what I chose. I chose Operation Doomsday, which is a fucking incredible debut album. The production is amazing. It's very rough and layered, and even quite explosive at times, which works really well with Doom's performances on this project, which are, in my opinion, Doom performs with an energy and rawness that he doesn't really match on any other album in his discography. It's just really something to behold. Even on his debut, he's still so impressive when it comes to his pen game, when it comes to his flows. It's an impeccable performance. I'm not even drunk. I'm just.
I can speak, and I'm
He's so drunk. He's drunk.
I don't. Yeah, it's I guess secondhand drunk.
It's like every time I drink, just the bit of alcohol just goes into your bloodstream.
Yeah,
The
through
Dark
mic.
Crystal.
Who's the real villain here?
Everywhere, I'm lost. Everything that Doom does on here is just impeccable. It's a masterpiece. Its energy and its atmosphere is just not matched by anything else in its discography. It's so addictive. It's so energetic and chaotic and amazing, and it's almost his best album.
Venomous Villain is, for the longest time, what I called my favorite Doom album. And I mean the longest time because up until 3 days ago, it was my favorite MF Doom album. Vaudeville Villain, not Venomous Villain. The just dark and eerie aesthetic of like basically this edgelord crafting his rap album, with like this aura of death and decay around him, is just incredible to me. Not only is the production A game, but the open mic segments are some of my favorite details added to just any hip hop album ever. They give it so much character and so much just evilness that you feel like you're in this like dark, grimy alley, just forced to confront this man. And it's just an incredible album. I love Vaudeville, and I am so sorry I couldn't be cool and say it was number one, but I changed my mind. Sorry, old friend.
Okay, food. Okay, so what I'm about to say is gonna be really, really freaking sloppy because I didn't prepare for this album at all. This album is such a treat, man. It's freaking amazing. In terms of themes, I'd argue it might be his most concise record. Food, obviously the main theme on here. I think it's really cool how food ties into every single element of this album, whether it be like the beats. I think one of the songs sounds like there's like farting on it. Then there's the interludes where people are talking about like making foods for guests if they had any that ever came over, or just like song titles, stuff like that. It's just it permeates everything on this album, which really makes it hold together for me. The beats are amazing on this record, from front to back. Doom is great. The features are great. This is obviously the same thing I've said for like most of these albums, but it's just still true. I feel like at this point, saying Doom is in top form is like no shit, Sherlock. At this point, I do want to say that I think I've noticed that the interludes are obviously a point of contention for a lot of people. I think they're really good. I kind of like that they are plopped right in the middle. 6 minutes might be a little bit too long, I guess. But the final one is like 3 minutes, and it really does set up the last third of the album pretty well. And I think a lot of the stuff that goes on in them is hysterical. I have a couple of personal connections to this record too. Me and Amy know of this album on Album of the Year that has a song on it that is sampled on One Beer, but it was uploaded to the website incorrectly. So, according to the website, it's going to come out in 2975 instead of having come out in 1975. It's a French like jazz funk album by a band called Cortex. Really phenomenal record. I highly recommend that you guys listen.
I haven't heard it yet, but for a while that was my like wildest regret, and I kept sending the correction to the site owner, and he deleted all the logs, but if you checked the corrections back like months ago, because it's like placed like over the course of a year, I just got more desperate for him to fix the date in each one. The first one like started like it came out in 1975, and then like a few days before the corrected, like, please, I am begging you, fix the date. My family has disowned me because I typed a 2.
I kept checking the page over and over again, but yeah, that's just a funny thing I remember. And then another funny thing I remember, on a couple of nights ago, when one specific server was destroyed, Um, my friends and I watched an episode of Sesame Street, and it was from the 70s. And I guess back in the 70s, they had like long form episodes that were like a full hour. And we watched the whole thing. We're like, this is kind of cool. Like, this is way better than the ones that I remember watching. And then we get to the end, and the friggin' song at the end of the episode with the credits is the song that Cookies samples. And it just like blew my freaking mind. I was like, what are the fucking chances that I was going to hear that?
Was it from the episode Stevie Wonder Visits?
I have no idea what it was, but
because there's
like,
multiple
what?
Sesame Street
I was like,
episodes sampled.
That's incredible.
But yeah, just in general, I guess I'll wrap things up with this album. It's freaking great. I love it. I love this album, honestly.
Well, I think
while we're on the topic of Sesame Street samples, there's Sesame Street released a bunch of albums in like the 70s, and one of them was like a Learn Your ABCs. And on Wildflower, the Avalanches sampled them saying the letters of the alphabet to have them spell out sentences. And when I first found that out, I was like, "Holy shit! Whoa!"
I was gonna say while you're on the topic of One Beer, I think Madlib produced that track as well.
Oh wow, cool. Yeah, I think Boards of Canada also has sampled Sesame Street before.
All the best bands sample Sesame Street.
Yeah, another great group that has a good taste for samples. Hopefully, we can do an episode on that someday.
Radiohead never sampled Sesame Street.
They suck. But yeah, I'll leave things here. It's not quite a masterpiece for me. I think it feels a bit. I don't know how I would make this a masterpiece. I feel like it is in my head, but it's just personally for me, it's not quite there. But still, great. Phenomenal, and definitely deserving of the number 2 spot for me.
All right. Best and worst tracks. My favorite tracks from Mad Villainy are my favorite MF Doom track, Fancy Clown, Accordion, Meat Grinder, Raid, Sick Fit, Curls, Operation Lifesaver, Figaro, Strange Ways, I, All Caps, and Rhinestone Cowboy. I have no least favorite tracks.
My favorite tracks on Operation Doomsday were Doomsday, Rhymes Like Dimes, The Finest, Go With The Flow, Red and Gold, Hey, The Mic, and Gastrolls. My least favorite track, I don't have one.
My favorite track is Lick Upon. My least favorite is Change the Beat.
Excuse me. My favorite tracks on Food are Hoe Cakes, which probably is the funniest line in any MF Doom song. Potholders, Deep Fried Friends. Love that like thing, like how many of us have them? That stuff's cool.
Yeah, that's so good.
Poo Plat Platter. That one is probably my favorite interlude. Where we're like, Father, I've lost an arm. Good. And then Rap Snitch Knishes. That freaking guitar sample, man. It makes my brain melt.
The hook is so catchy on that song as well.
Yeah, Mr. Fantastic has a great verse on that one. I think it's better than Doom's verse on that track. Might be a hot take, but
is Mr. Fantastic a real rapper?
Well, he's only ever made 2 appearances ever, and that's on both the Doom songs he was ever on. It's a mystery because you never can find anything about him.
It's MF Doom's clone. Oh my god.
Leader. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I forgot. And my least favorite, oh god, I can't include interludes. I don't know why, but Beef Rap, for some reason, it's just, I don't know. Maybe one of the reasons this is a masterpiece for me. Maybe it's not a masterpiece because that's the song that opens things off. It's good. I don't know. It's just something that has never really clicked with me.
Oh no! No! Oh.
Not beef rap. Not my favorite beef rap.
So yeah, we're at our number 1 spots. My number 1, my favorite MF Doom album is Food.
Mine is
Mad Villainy.
Mine is First Come, First Served. No. I don't have to tell you what my number 1 spot is. Come on,
Dr.
guys.
Octagon, paramedic fetus of the East.
Mad Villainy, duh.
So, yeah, same order anyway, because... So, yeah, Food is another monumental album from Doom The man just seemed like he couldn't do any wrong on this album, as in my opinion, this is easily his best, I would say, as it's just got some of his best production, some of the most creative and playful production in his catalog, especially with a lot of the sampling, some of his best rapping, some of his best rhyme schemes, some of his best comedy. His wordplay is incredible, and easily some of his most consistent song concepts and overall album concepts. Production-wise, this album is, you could argue and say normally what you'd expect from Doom, but with a bit of a twist. Some of the beats on this thing are just, they're just so fun. They're just some of the funnest in his whole discography. Especially with how creative they are with a lot of the sampling that he uses, like on Hoe Cakes, Con Carn, and Rap Snitch Knitches. I love the sampling all over this thing. Just some of his funniest samples are on this thing, and I also love the way that a lot of the comic cartoon samples, specifically the Fantastic Four ones, tie into the album in such a way that it's just obviously full-blown narrative driven, and it's probably his most concise in that sense. Not that it hasn't been done by Doom already on projects previous to this, but I think on here it's at its most, concise. The food concept, of course, is just very consistent too in both the lyrics and the production. There's so many food metaphors here, and they're just fucking incredible. Doom himself is very good on this album too. He really brought some great performances, and he brought some of his best humor on this thing as well. Some of the bars and songs and thing are just so ridiculous and out there that I'll just laugh at them. It's just so good. Plus, whenever he's bringing his humor, he's bringing in, obviously some very good lyrical songs on here, and with pretty good concepts. Deep Fried Friends, for example, is probably his most conscious and driven songs he's ever written. The track list itself is fantastic in my opinion. These colourful songs are spread out consistently, and I even love the 3 instrumental tracks that appear back to back. I just think they're incredible. Plus, so many of MF Doom's most memorable and creative songs are on this thing, songs that stick out as a whole in his catalogue, and some of his most dense work as a whole. I have so much fun listening to this, all packed into one concise, concept-driven package that is easily Doom's best, in my opinion. I don't know what to say. I love the others. It pained me to put them below, but I don't know, it's just, the more I listen to this, the more I love it. I appreciate it so much. I feel like it's Doom's finest work. And not to discredit anything else, because everything else is just great. And it was so difficult picking a top 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I chose Mad Villainy. The terms well-produced and MF Doom album are so synonymous that it's hard to even talk about the production on any of his projects without sounding like a broken record. However, the production displayed on Mad Villainy is another beast altogether. I'll talk about Doom's contributions in a second. I just want to get Madlib's contributions out of the way first. This isn't my personal favorite rap album of all time, but it's definitely up there. However, in terms of hip-hop production, I think it's probably my favorite. The only album that really rivals it for me personally is The College Dropout. But the instrumental work and samples that Madlib assembles here are just mind-blowing. Every time I listen to Mad Villainy, I just get completely mesmerized and amazed by some of these samples and how well they're incorporated into the very smooth and pristine beats. That's not to say that MF Doom doesn't live up to Madlib's contributions, because his production style and Doom's very villainous and mysterious and mischievous rapping style just complement each other perfectly. They both bring out the best of each other. Doom's performances are amazing. Some of his best, most infectious and addicting bars are all over this project. He's so focused, delivers a lot of his best one-liners, and his flows, as always, are fantastic. But on Mad Villainy, they're just on a whole nother level, as is his pen work. And it's an incredible album, and it's easily my favorite MF Doom album.
Hope you enjoyed the vinyl.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know the story here, I gave him a loan of Mad Villainy before the second quarantine.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm taking care of it for now.
Thank you. Take care of my baby.
I sleeved it up and everything.
Speaking of Mad Villainy vinyl, So this might come off as bragging, but I promise I'm not. So I bought a Mad Villainy vinyl, and when I opened it for the first time, it only had side A and B. They put the same record in twice, so I had to get like this massive call to try to get the like the full album, and I finally got it. And when I listened to it, for some reason it clicked. I'm like, oh, this is the best shit ever. And I don't know why I was denying it. I've always loved the album, but for some reason I always like said like, well, do I love it that much? But when I listened, no, yeah, this is just impeccable. This is some of the greatest production ever, to the point that like it defines how I listen to a lot of these songs, like the Frank Zappa samples and the Gentle Giant samples. No, those aren't samples anymore. Mad Villainy owns those songs. The just every song is completely memorable. Even the track Bistro, which is just MF Doom saying that he owns a bistro or he serves soup or something. And I'm like, I listened to that, I'm like, oh my god, you're a genius, Mr. Doom. Every track is just filmed to the brim with not only like super memorable lyrics, but super memorable production choices. There's not that many albums where I can say I know the exact moment certain beats are gonna come up or certain samples are just about to kick in. But for Mad Villainy, even though I haven't heard it that much, I know everything. I know that thing is laid out. That is in the back of my mind forever now. Every just a perfectly crafted rhythm, every perfectly crafted sample, every lyric. It's just so artisanally placed. It's incredible. And to end this off, this is a direct call out to Madlib. You sampled this album from this group called Oscar and his Orchestra. It's like, I think it's some Chinese album made for children. I can't find any evidence of its existence online. So if you're hoarding that album, I'd like to see it, please, because I'm quite curious to find out why I can't find its evidence of its existence online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madlib.
Thank you, Madlib. Madlib,
Well,
please reach
okay.
out to me. I live in the basement of MickyT's house.
Silence.
No.
Chained up in the basement. Okay. I guess I'll finish things off. So, Mad Villainy. I don't even really know where to start, but I guess I'll start with saying that I don't know if you guys know how much this album means to me. Not like on a personal level where it's like every time I hear it I want to cry. Obviously that's not what like MF Doom is for. But for like the first 15 years of my life, I turned a cold shoulder to like just rap, like the whole genre. I was like a rockets for the first like decade and a half of my life. But one of my close friends, Rowan, back in high school in economics class, junior year, said the words to me, Mad Villain, and asked me if I had known like what it was. I had no idea what it was. I didn't really know much about rap at all. I still remember the first time I heard that name, and then I went home the same day and listened to it for the first time in the attic that I'm recording this with you guys now, and it literally blew my like fucking mind. This is the album that got me into hip hop, and I listened to it yesterday for the first time in a while before this podcast, and I wasn't sure if I had it as a perfect 10 or as my favorite hip hop album because it's personal to me for getting me into the genre, but I realized that it just is because this album is a 10 and it is a masterpiece and it is my favorite rap album of all time and it is in my top 10 albums ever. I listened to the intro and I got like a rush, and then I got to accordion and I probably nailed like maybe 60% of the lyrics. Sometimes he's hard to follow, but it just like it reignited my love for this album. I don't even really know how to go into any like greater detail about why I like it. For the same reason that you guys do. Madlib, phenomenal producer. MF Doom is great. He's super creative. The album flows perfectly. I don't know, man. That's really all I can say, man. Like this album like goes beyond like the genre for me in a way. So it was really an obvious pick for number one. And it's definitely, I don't know. I owe my life. I owe my love for hip hop to this album. So for that reason alone, it's my number one.
All right. My favorite tracks from Food are Whole Cakes, Rap Snitch, Knishes, One Beer, Beef Rap, Potholders, Deep Fried Friends, Con Carn, Vomit Spit, and Fig Leaf Bicarbonate. I have no least favorite tracks.
My favorite tracks on Mad Villainy were Accordion, my favorite MF Doom track, Meat Grinder, Raid, Rainbow, Curls, Money Folder, Shadows of Tomorrow, Figaro, Strange Ways, Fancy Clown, All Caps, Great Day, Rhinestone Cowboy, and Hardcore Hustle. I don't have a least favorite.
My favorite is Strange Ways. My least favorite is I.
My favorite's on Mad Villainy, and I'm gonna list these off faster than MF Doom can rap. We've got Accordion, Meat Grinder, Bistro, Raid, America's Most Wanted, Rainbows, Money Folder, Shadows of Tomorrow, Operation Lifesaver, Figaro, Strange Ways, Fancy Clown, I, Supervillain Theme, All Caps, Great Day, Rhinestone Cowboy. And my least favorite is Hardcore Hustle. I don't really need to hear a guy like ejaculating on a hip hop track. Thank you very much. I thought that died in the 90s, but apparently it didn't.
No, you need to hear this.
Oh, and remember all caps when you spell the man's name is the most badass line that has ever been delivered in hip hop, and you can't tell me.
Yeah. You better.
Also,
all of my notes are whenever I type in Doom, everything is in caps. I'm telling you that now.
Yeah, I genuinely. Yeah.
Also,
same.
don't talk about my.
Imagine I put the title in lowercase.
No, if you do that, no, you're dirty if you do that.
What?
I'll put everything in uppercase except for Doom.
One last piece of advice. One last piece of advice before we end things. Don't talk about my moms, yo.
And we did it.
I'm very happy this podcast is over because my headphones are breaking, and I'm about to go full deaf in a few seconds. So.
And I'm fucking starving.
And I need to get shit done.
You should have eaten while we did it.
So yeah, we did it. We ranked all of MF Doom's albums, and thanks for coming on again, Toaster Queen and Koner. It was amazing having you on again, and we'll definitely have you on again soon next year. And just to end it off, next week is going to be the last worst to best of 2020. We won't be seeing one until the new year. And the next worst...
And a bit later on in the new year.
A bit later on.
We might
late January. And next week we are going to be doing our final worst to best on Blink-182. Oh boy.
Everyone comment do a Steely Dan worst to best so they can force them into doing it.
I think we can just set one up. I don't think we need to be peer pressured.
Peer pressure them to only talk about Steely Dan. Make this a Steely Dan podcast, please.
We can't promise that.
I know Trey would like to be on that one because he's only been on one. So if 5 is too much, I don't know. Maybe I could drop.
We're trying to limit how many we're gonna have, but we'll see when the time comes. Either way, thanks for checking out today's episode of the Taped Podcast. How do you rank MF Doom's albums? All of us have our links in the description to our individual Album of the Year pages, and there's links to me and Nostalgia's YouTube channels. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode of Taped Podcast. See you.
Bye.
And have a great day.
MF Doom.
MF Doom.
And remember all caps when you spell the man's name.